Well, next up, I want to highlight a couple of the researchers that are some of the great research that's happening at the University of North Dakota. This is a great collaboration with the University of North Dakota and Grand Farm. So I do want to welcome up Dr. Keith Crisman, who will talk. I do want to quickly highlight that due to time, we are going to skip over Dr. Sherry Beyer, who is a fascinating woman who's doing some great research in farming on like asteroids. It's really interesting. She's the first woman to graduate from UND with a aerospace with a PhD, I do believe. So Dr. Beyer, I want to really quickly highlight and recognize the work that you're doing, even though due to time we are skipping over to you, Keith. So maybe Keith, if you want to represent all the great work that UND is doing, excited to hear your presentation.
Well, there's so much work. It'd be very difficult to hit on everything. We only have so many minutes, but there's a lot of great work. We have a lot of great faculty and resources available to us, and of course we want to continue doing that. What I want to talk about today is slightly different, right? We're talking about the crop utilization in space, and how we look at it, generally speaking, is primarily food. But that's only part of the equation. If we look forward, if you ask the average person, hey, I'm going to grow plants in space, be that, is something wrong? I'm sorry, there was an echo. Ask the average person, well, about growing plants in space, and the first thing we all think of is, of course, food. We all like to eat. Astronauts and humans on Earth all have caloric needs. When we're talking about growing in space, on a habitat, et cetera, we want to consider the hedonistic scale. That just being that people don't like if you feed them the same thing over and over and over again, right? We like variety in texture, color, and flavor. We really like spicy things. The second thing you might think of immediately about plant resources in space is regenerative life support, of course. CO2 scrubbing, oxygen generation, water creation, of course, all those things kind of going back to physical needs for that human in your system. The next part is your in situ resources, materials, textiles, fuel, replacing broken components with things that you could quite literally grow on your station. And what you'll notice is that almost all of these, to a minimal extent, physical needs, they're physical requirements. But we as humans aren't solely physical, and this is where we're going to kind of deviate just a bit. I'm really glad that these 2 speakers ago we mentioned thriving in space instead of just surviving in space. And this handy element here, based off Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is my modified hierarchy for systems design for space, putting the human in that system. And I'll show you here, we've got 2 main sections: satisficed, which would be surviving, and satisfied, which would be thriving in that environment. But what we're going to look at closely are these bottom 2 levels. Note that we have internal needs and external needs. Internal needs are those needs for the human to survive, and that's just live in your system. Note the first thing we have to do is secure their physical or physiological needs: air, water, pressure, temperature, right? We're in a vacuum in space. So we need to fix their physical requirements first. Once we meet those requirements, they can quite literally survive on your system. Now we're going to look at their psychological needs. And if you know anything about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we have the need for food and shelter and security, and then we move up through the pyramid to love and acceptance and self-actualization. And that's really kind of what this is, right? I can give you everything you need to survive in the system, but you also have to feel secure and safe in that system. And the reason for that is because I can't expect work, or at least good work, out of you if you don't feel safe and secure in that system. And that brings us to our external needs, which is work. So internal needs is human surviving. External needs is that human actually doing something in that space. And once again, right, physiological needs are first. Those are the tools, the resources that you need to complete those tasks. Without those, you can't get anything done, right? Once we have all of those physical requirements met, we can move on to the psychological requirements, cognitive workload, signal detection theory, all the things that are part of human-machine interaction on the psychological side of things, right? We can't overschedule or overwork you or have you task saturated and expect you to do anything in the event of an emergency, right? Because you're already maxed out on that stress scale. Once we've met all those things, right, the system is running at a minimal level. Humans are surviving and they're working. What we want to do, though, is we want to go beyond that. We want to satisfy those things. Creating contingency for safety, creating contingency for that hedonistic scale, right? You know, just variety of items, as well as some, we're not zoo animals, but some enrichment as well, right? And those are all important parts of the human because, well, we need more than physical. And there's something really big that's happening as we venture further from our planet. If I put you in a spaceship, if I had a spaceship, and flung you past the Earth really fast, there's quite a few angles that you might pass the planet and only see a water world, right? Blues and whites and all that, you know, beautiful marble in space. But that's not how humans see it, right? This is how we see it. We look out our window, maybe not in North Dakota, but normally you look out your window and you see some green in the springtime, and that's how we see our planet. This is home. Lots of greens and grays and whites and all multiple colors, right? Spacecraft, however, tend to be rather sterile. And we don't necessarily like that because there's an issue. Up until now, humans, the furthest away, have seen Earth like this, right? Of course, on the ISS, it's even bigger. It's right there. Now, you could argue that, well, you know, it's still out of reach, but we can see it. It is there. So there's some Earth anchoring there. However, we have absolutely no idea how humans will behave when Earth is a pale dot above the horizon, like Mars is to us, right? So we are doing research. I've had a few students now, and we're going to continue this research as well, looking into how to Earth anchor your spacecraft. That be a habitat or duration space flight. How do you bring Earth with you? Because plants aren't just food and in situ resources or bioregenerative products. There are also psychological component to that, right? Now we've done some research where we have put plants in our inflatable lunar Mars analog habitat here at UND in various modules. Of course, we have our greenhouse, but we put plants outside the greenhouse as well. And we did see that most members of those crews did enjoy interacting with that plant being there. That, however, does pose a very large problem to us, and that is, how do you create an analog environment in which you're not on Earth, right? It's very difficult to do. So, you know, continuing that research is difficult, but I pose to you, you know, to come up with solutions, right? We have some analogs in submarines, right, where you can't just go outside if you want to, and they may be down for months at a time. We have, of course, I could put you all in a cave and close the door. The IRB probably wouldn't like that, but we'll close the door for, you know, a couple months to a couple of years, and eventually you know, might kind of feel isolated. But the problem is that subconsciously, we all know we're here, we're on Earth. So again, it's a very interesting process, and that's why I like that comment earlier about not just surviving, but thriving in space as we continue to build systems. We need to bring some home with us, and that's all I have for this. So I cut mine just a little short. Maybe we can get a little closer to being on time. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me. I would love to answer if I can.